Good morning, YouTube. Much like Neelix the cat, who is very weird, the economy in the U.S. is quite weird as well. I mean, we have the lowest unemployment for years in a very long time. Inflation through the roof. Stock markets are crazy.
Right.
It's up and down. You could make the argument for and against on how the economy feels, and for and against on how inbred Neelix is or something. I don't know, but.
Poor
Most
kid.
people would say that they're feeling the squeeze when it comes to inflation, and
Right.
if you're behind on your car payments, well, you're not alone, because according to TransUnion, which is a credit reporting bureau, it's up a lot. It doesn't sound like a lot, but 1.6% currently are more than 60 days behind on their car payments, compared to 1.4% a year ago, which, I mean, like 0.2%,
Okay.
but that's millions and millions of car loans. So we're
Right.
talking about hundreds of thousands of more people
Right.
that are behind on their car payments, and they haven't seen it this high, this much of an increase since the Great Recession of 2008.
It is ridiculous, the interest rates on them. So I completely understand. Like, I have fantastic credit, better than Tyler, by the way, just so you know. That's why I think he likes me, because I have good credit.
It's within 20, 30 points, but I have just more credit cards going out to pay for cars and parts and things,
Whatever
so that's
your
always.
excuses are,
Sometimes
mine's
I get hit with a
better.
higher balance and it lowers my rate, but otherwise I'd be as high as her.
Mine's
So
better. But my interest rate was still around 8% to get my baby Bronco, which
Right.
seemed crazy. It seemed
Yes.
ridiculous to get a car when you're paying extra, 8% extra every month.
Right, same with the van that I last financed at a credit union. I think it was at 6.5% for my beautiful Riptide blue metallic van. And compared to the last van, I think that it was around like 3.5 or 3.99.
Yeah.
So it's gone up a lot. Obviously, everything is more expensive, and that's why they're blaming this higher delinquency rate.
Right.
Basically because of inflation. They're feeling the squeeze everywhere else, and they're getting behind. It's not because people are losing their jobs. It's not unemployment or any kind of crisis at all. It's just everything is more expensive. They got a car loan they could afford 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
Maybe they got help with some of that money they were handing out from the government, and it's just gotten harder and harder as we've had double-digit inflation to pay for everything else. Utilities, insurance also, according to this article, has gone up 20, 30% in this period of time as well.
What?
So that's the thing. I have a theory on the insurance, though.
What is your theory?
So, trade values, very low. I'm going to get to that in a little bit on the trade values. So not only are people behind, but they can't get out of their cars. If you go get a car appraised and it is very low, certain salesmen will ask if you have gap insurance. And that is basically to cover you. Say you owe $20,000 on a car and it's worth 10. You'd have to come up with that difference if you traded it in or roll it into a new loan. Or you have gap insurance, which covers that gap in between what the car is worth on trade-in and what you owe. And if you find a really nice tree and kind of focus on the front right of the car to where the impact's not where you are, and you just go 25, 30 miles per hour, enough to blow the airbags and
No.
crumple the frame, but not really injure yourself, you use gap insurance to get out of the
You could
car.
break your nose from that airbag going
You
off,
have
right?
prepared. I guess you could wear like a helmet and some gear and be ready to go.
Your football helmet or a hockey helmet.
But yeah, so there's a lot more claims going on.
Okay.
Also inflation, but I bet insurance companies are getting a lot more claims from people that are trying to get out of these really buried
Right.
cars that they're in, and they're disappearing, ending up at a lake, catching on fire, hitting a tree or whatever. So
Right.
insurance is getting more expensive because of that.
Interesting. What happened to the 0% financing? Like, that's what I was looking all over for.
Well, that's mostly new and like certified pre-owned. It was like an incentive for moving, selling cars. We're starting to see that again a little bit. Like back in 2007, we would have $1,500 or $3,000 off and 0% for 60 months to
Yeah,
be competitive or
exactly.
whatever. Yeah.
It doesn't exist anymore, I feel like.
It's starting to come back, especially with Stellantis products, so like Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, because they can't move those things. They're making cars cheaper. Electric cars, they've made the Ford Lightning pickup truck much cheaper. The Mustang Mach-E, the SUV
Right.
that's still a Mustang, they made that a lot cheaper to try and move them along. If you were dumb enough to buy it at the top, you are way, way upside down. So I have a few examples here using MMR, which we covered with Bob Cummings, Eurasian Bob, when we were doing the first episode of the game show where I've lost 2 now. But yeah, Mannheim Market Research. So the average wholesale auction value from the largest wholesale company in the U.S. And it's pretty amazing how much cars have dropped in the last couple of years. And this is why people are upside down and delinquent, because they can't get out of these cars that are so expensive. So if you were to buy like a 2021 Kia Telluride, and you were paying $10,000 or $15,000 over for a Kia, you're an idiot. I mean, they were really hard to get, and they are a very cool new thing, but you were paying over for a Kia?
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So a year ago, even when they started dropping, it was $40,700. The average...
Bro, what?
The cat made that noise? Apologies for the cat. Apparently the cat's in heat, and we need to get it fixed because it's gone completely psycho.
No.
It's gonna knock over a camera. Jesus. Okay, so we need to get this one fixed, huh?
Yeah.
Like,
She, not
well, that's
it.
right. It's all right. I call all pets thieves. The Kia Telluride. If you were crazy enough to buy a Kia Telluride
They're
for over
cool.
sticker, so even last year when the prices started going down, $40,700 a year ago.
Right.
Now it's $31,300.
Huh.
So this is already a car that's 4 years old. So
Right.
supposedly driving it off the lot, you would have lost a lot. But 10 grand in depreciation, 25% in a year
Wow.
from a car going from year 3 to year 4
Right.
is astounding. So that means people are over $10,000 upside down right now on a Kia Telluride, especially since they paid retail for it, and this is wholesale if they were trading it back in.
Right.
Yeah, terrible. Yeah, next is a Range Rover Sport SVR. So if you wanted to be very cool and buy a hot rod Range Rover, well, last year $72,300 was the average. Now it's $57,000. So $15,000 in depreciation in a year on something that is 3 going on 4 years old. So
Right.
once again, it didn't lose its value in that few years when they were new because prices were so crazy, and now they're just crashing down.
Right.
You are
But
totally
do you
upside
think
down.
that this is more of like a correction because at the end of the pandemic, used cars went up in price
Most
so
certainly.
much. So is this kind
Absolutely.
of back to normal?
Yes, but not only that, people were paying over sticker for like an SVR, which is
Right.
silly. Silly. So that's a luxury car, obviously. A 2022 Ford F-150 four-wheel drive, V6 XLT, so just basically the basic trim, not a work truck. EcoBoost V6, four-wheel drive, a pretty common truck, probably the best-selling truck in America, was $53,200.
Was. And it
Average
is-
auction value last year for 2022. So we're talking 3 years old or 2
Right.
years old back then. Now $40,300. So $13,000 off in a year, in the span of a year.
That's a lot.
But Chrysler products, or Stellantis, because it's an Italian-owned company now, they are the absolute worst. So a 2021 Chrysler Pacifica, the minivan, a touring spec, so not the highest trim, the basic spec trim. $33,800 last year, the average used value. Doesn't that sound crazy?
Average used.
Yeah. Now it's $19,500. So
Why?
$14,000
Stop it.
off in a
Seriously?
year on a cheaper minivan.
How did
That
it
was
come
already
down
used.
that much? That is significant.
So if you were just a family, like I need a family van,
Right.
and you're coming on the car lot, and there's nothing available except, okay, I'll buy a lightly used Pacifica and try and be smart and spend $35,000.
Right.
Well, here you are with something that's worth 20.
That is awful. That's the biggest jump then.
That is a big jump. There is one that's worse though,
No, there's not.
percentage-wise. If you bought a 2021 Jeep Renegade Sport,
You deserve
so this
it.
is the cheap, like
Right.
basically cheap crossover
Right.
transportation.
Base.
Front-wheel drive, so
Yeah.
not even four-wheel drive, the smallest engine, the lowest trim package, $19,500 for a 2 or 3 year old
Right.
Jeep. Now it's at $13,000, so $7,000. So not quite half, a third
Yeah.
gone in a year when it comes
So
to value.
You're saying used cars is not a good investment.
Well, it used to be smarter to buy used, and that's what a
Right.
lot of people do. They buy a lightly used car
Exactly.
that hit driving off the lot, but they were actually more expensive used than they were new based on the
Right.
MSRP.
Right.
And this crazy thing has happened now
Yeah.
where all of these people are buried. So, I mean, their option is to keep paying the car until
Mm-hmm.
it's done, if they can, but a lot of people are struggling to make these payments, hence the higher delinquency rates. So they can't really roll over $7,000 in negative equity
Right.
into a different car, because at today's interest rates, that would be something like 100 and something dollars for every 5,000 in negative equity if you can get approved, because banks are tightening up on top of that to where
Right.
they can't roll in negative equity. They can't come up with cash down to get out of that negative equity because of everything being more expensive and inflation and everything else. So they're already in trouble. So you're going to see the repos, the delinquencies,
Right.
all starting to stack up.
So,
It is the perfect storm right now of repos and things really hitting the fan.
So right now, do you buy new, used, or lease? Where
Well,
would you go?
If you're able to buy a car now, you're in good shape if you didn't buy in the last couple of years. So
Right.
lease rates are terrible right now. New cars are finally getting better incentives. Used prices aren't going down that much yet. Most car dealers are still just like hanging on to the good old days and just letting their inventory pile up. You drive past car lots now and they actually have cars in the lot compared to a year or two ago, but they're just not willing to make deals yet because they still want it to be the good old days. So I would just hang tight.
Yeah.
Probably. Wait 6 months or a year until this finally hits the fan and we see what the new world is going to be like. I don't see a recession being triggered by car loans because it's so easy to repo a car and auction it off and all that stuff versus homes in 2008 where it was a big thing. You know, the foreclosures can take years in some cases, and these big banks were just failing because of that. Like people weren't paying and they were running out of money and they couldn't foreclose and sale fast enough. The wheels will keep turning with car loans, but it's going to be interesting.
That'll be crazy. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully it won't cause too much damage to people. Well, I guess I just have to keep making my insanely high Bronco Sport payment every month until I start getting paid from YouTube.
These YouTube checks start coming in.
Where are they?
Well, they have to subscribe and keep watching, I suppose.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Yeah, isn't it $700 a month or something like that for a Bronco Sport?
Oh, I thought that's how much I was supposed to get paid for this.
Oh no, how much is your payment? Isn't that
Right around 7, yeah. Probably 7, 7.5.
a little bitty Bronco?
You love it. No, you don't. It's a terrible car.
And that's why they're blaming this higher delinquency
Right.
wait.
The weight?
Wait, you wait.